Besides being a fellow KSS graduate like myself, Dr. Bruce Damer is a distinguished astrobiologist and is recognized for his groundbreaking hypothesis on the origins of life, for his innovations with NASA and the space community to develop mission designs, and for promoting scientific research into the potential for psychedelics and mindfulness practice to catalyze creativity, there's that word again, and problem solving in technology, design, and leadership. He started his studies at TRU in 1979 and has become world-renowned astrobiologist through his collaboration with Professor David Deamer, both based at the University of California, Santa Cruz, Department of Biomolecular Engineering. With Deamer and colleagues, and worldwide colleagues, not just at the university, he developed and is testing a new scenario for the origin of life on Earth. It's called the hot spring hypothesis. The hypothesis impacted fields as diverse as evolutionary biology, artificial intelligence, and philosophy. For the past 25 years, Damer has worked extensively with NASA on mission simulation, innovation spacecraft design, landing site selection for Mars life detection missions, and most recently co-created a spacecraft called Shepherd, which could extract resources from asteroids, providing humanity a viable, sustainable path to expansion into the solar system. In the 1980s and 90s, he developed some of the first software using graphical user interfaces and helped pioneer the launch of avatar virtual worlds on the internet. He is a co-founder and president of the Center for Minds and the chief scientist for the Biota Institute. Damer is a global speaker on topics in science, space, and psychedelic experience, and the philosophy and spiritual implications of the scientific quest to discover our deepest origins. He is a two-time TEDx speaker, a guest on numerous podcasts, featured in several TV documentaries, and widely cited author in peer-reviewed papers. I think it's one citation per day for one article that he wrote, and other book chapters and popular articles. He has received numerous accolades, including research grants from NASA and others, and it includes the Distinguished Alumni Award in 2019 from TRU, the NASA Group Achievement Award in 2006, and dear to my heart, he was the inaugural Science Revealed Dean's Lecture Series speaker. Finally, but perhaps most importantly for Damer, he has a personal mission to inspire young people to pursue careers and lives imbued with a creative spark and a passion to make a difference for the future of humanity. Honorable Chancellor, on behalf of the Senate and the Board of Governors of Thompson Rivers University, I am pleased to present to you Dr. Bruce Damer for the degree Doctor of Technology, honoris causa.
Wow. My son's graduated from KSS and they don't have a bio anything like this. I'm so impressed. By the powers vested in me by Thompson Rivers University, I confer upon you, Dr. Damer, the degree of Technology, honoris causa, with all of the privileges and responsibilities thus conferred. Congratulations, Dr. Damer. Kurtzstetten.
I now invite Dr. Bruce Damer to address convocation.
Whew. Amazing.
I'm the kid from Kamloops. It's a town that I love, and when I come back, I see Mount Peter and Paul from somewhere, and the green hills and the sagebrush, and I smell the air, and I remember just having the richest childhood here. I go way back, way back. Our family moved here in 1968, and Kamloops had like 10,000 people. And North Kamloops was another city. It was a very different city, let me tell you. Kamloops got all put together in the 70s, and this institution got put together in about 1970. And there's a great picture on the website just showing Caribou College with a little wagon wheel, a couple people standing there. And when I started at what became TRU in about 1980, there were just 40 of us in the science class. And computer science was one classroom and one PDP, old-fashioned now, computer, one lab. And yet, if I looked at whether or not I should go down to the big unis on the coast, like UVic or UBC, especially for computer science, I thought, you know what? I'm going to give TRU a whirl. And I'm really glad I did, because when I got here, I just felt, I have to say it, the love and care of people here. I really have to say that. Because it was small, and it was intimate and personal and caring. And the class sizes were so small because there was like one class, one professor. And I feel, every time I've come back here, I feel that continued. That kind of care continued, that kind of personal relationship continued. Even though you're, I think, like 12,000 students on campus now, it's amazing. So I think you all, I have to reflect that you made a really good decision to come here, a good choice to come here. For me, it allowed me to get out of the sort of go beyond the high school thing, which is a whole other thing, especially at KSS. KSS was huge at that time. I think it was 800 students in 2 grades. So it was like kind of chaotic. All the schools kind of concentrated there. And get into sort of self-realization. This was the place I did it. Before I sort of launched out into the world, I went down to UVic in the co-op program, which was also an amazing thing. So this institution is very special to me, and I think for many of you, is it a great place? It's a great place. So in a way, I think it provides a memory and a basis for where you're going out into the world, into an exciting new world, which, as Brett talks about, is also challenged. It's also less secure, believe it or not, than the 80s, the world that I came into. The 80s just seemed slower. Nobody had smartphones. Nobody carried phones around, to find a phone and make a call. And it was a slower pace. We had some insecurity too. We had the potential of thermonuclear war still hanging over us. But it was a slower paced place. And now we're entering hyperdrive. AI and the interconnectedness, all of us, has increased the pace of things. We also have some challenges in that we're telling us, or sort of, however it's happening, we're telling us a lot of crazy stories. And you all know this, right? When we see crazy conspiracy theories and crazy stuff coming through the internet. And I was sort of at the birth of the internet, and us that were at the birth of it, like, what? We're using it for that? Come on. But of course we're using it 95% of the time for really amazing things. We reinvented humanity. We bind together all of humanity. The Soviet Union went away, and every single human has the chance to connect with every other human instantaneously. Is that an amazing thing? It's an incredible thing, but it's new, so it's hitting us like a ton of bricks. Like, whoa, this has happened. Smartphones, like, since 2007 or something. It's big on the human psyche, and we're still adjusting. We're like wiggling around and adjusting. But I think our better natures will come through this period. And for you all, the future creators of technology, I think of terms like, let's do algorithms for good. We can. We can write algorithms that are for good, that benefit people, that support people. Many of us are. You know, I live near Silicon Valley, and it was a heartfelt place too. We had the homebrew computer club. There was a real heartfelt ethos that is still there in tech. There's an overlay of great wealth and competition and whatnot, but the ethos of sharing, of technologists and scientists who meet at the same barbecue and share what they're doing, still powers the tech science world. It's still there. And so as you go into that world, the one thing that I could suggest is important, and I think all of you potentially have these practices, is seek out an ecology of practices. And that could include mindfulness practices, meditations, grounding practices that keep us, because what we do in our work is we get in our heads. And we get super in our heads, and we get out of balance. It happens to me every day, literally. So in the mornings, I have to do something that gets me into my body, into my heart, into my full habitation, before all the head stuff comes in and I start processing it. And I find out that if I visit my body first, then the head stuff isn't as harsh, isn't like, you didn't do this yesterday, or this is overdue, or whatever. Because it's a little hard on yourself when you get into those states. Anxiety, right? There's a lot of anxiety around sitting in front of computers or smartphones. So if you're in your body, it's like now you're the master of your day. You're aware of your breathing, and you're just chill. It's much more chill. And then everything you do is more chill for everybody around you. It's a ripple effect. So these mindfulness practices lead to something called self-awareness or self-authoring, if you will. Like, then you realize you're going to be the author of your future. And you may come to times where you're like doing a job where I really like this job. But then you go back to what was my intention of taking this job? Oh, it was to get these training skills so that I can then move on and maybe form a company. Okay, we're still with that basic intention that landed in your belly at some point where you're like, wow, I want to start a company in this space. But you can't do it right away because you need experience. You're like wending your way through career things, you're moving. You know, as you heard in the bio, I bounced around like a ping pong ball or like a pinball machine ball. I wanted to work on the origin of life since when I was 14. I read about it, I had a vision about it. I was like, that's the coolest problem for a sort of techie brain that I have. And it's so cool, and there's so many elements to it. It's so multidisciplinary. Like, a whole planet, does it take a whole planet to begin life? Or can happen in one place? What molecules do you need? What combinatorial things are going on? How can a jumble of random molecules in a soup wake up and become a dividing living cell? It's like, wow, you know, this is, I'm 14 years old, like, is anybody working on this? And so I sort of read into the history. I read about Charles Darwin's idea of a warm little pond, and it landed in my belly. It's like, wow. And then I read the history of Albert Einstein, and that he did these things called thought experiments, where he's running alongside a beam of light, or he witnesses a man falling in an elevator, then goes into the man in the elevator and feels the pressure of the elevator rising back up and realizing that gravity and acceleration are the same thing. And that popped out in his letters as this was the happiest moment of my life. And I thought, wow, that's how science is done. These flashes of insight, creativity, just seem to come full embodied, and they're transformative. So I developed a grounding practice so that I could be open to that. Quiet times, contemplative reading, putting everything together. And the flashes of insight come unpredictably sometimes. But when they do, they're just, to me, they were the most exquisite moments of my existence, to tell you the truth. And then you put them into practice. So even during my tough tech job years, or way too much travel, I kept on the trail of this, how does life start? And the flashes started to come. And then it directed me toward UC Santa Cruz and learning the chemistry, because I wanted to do it with computers. And then an insight came in 2011. Computers don't have enough power to solve this problem. And I met a mentor named David Deemer, 25 years older than me. And he provided, and I have to emphasize the value of finding older mentors. After all those years, after 30 years on this, he said, I'll sit down with you, have tea with you twice a month in my home and in the lab, and I'll train you, and I'll give you paper street, and then I'll take you to the conferences. And you'll meet all the political, factions around the origin of life, and I'll introduce you to all their belief systems. And I mainlined that, and then 2 years later I was able to have the flash of insight informed by all of that. So I would suggest that maybe these are the things that you seek and pull together so that you can have these incredible creative moments, which I think are really worth working toward. And with that, I think I'll hand the podium back. And I just also, this is your world. I will be there, many of us will be there to help mentor and guide, reach out for older people. My whole mission in the next 10 years is to be doing this, and it's an incredible honor, and thank you for this honor, to be able to look at each of you and say, I'm here for you. If you want to reach out, this is the job we do now for you, to help you take on this complex world that we all co-created and see how we can make it better, because that's all humans have ever done. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Damer, for your very inspiring address. So it's now time to honor our